The new version of the Bleak District Electric Tapescape is now released, or at least up for pre-order at the time of watching this video. As you all know, if you've been here on the channel of late, I spent some time with Phil, the owner of Bleak District Electric, recently. One of the things we talked about was the history of the Tapescape. It's now in its third public release iteration of the pedal, and I thought I'd share that with you as I filmed him up talking about the history of the pedal, how it's evolved and developed and why, to get us to the current version, which is a huge leap from the previous two in my opinion. So if you're interested in pedal development and understanding the mind of a pedal creator, then this video is going to be for you.
Okay, so this was the first one, or the first one that I released as Bleak District, and that was Bleak District Electric Company one. My favourite delay was, or two favourites were the Boss DM2, which I'm, super famous analog delay, but quite short delay time, and just classic Boss stuff. Really cool self-oscillation and just a really nice delay pedal. And also the WEM Copycat, which I've got up there. I wanted to try and get something that sounded a bit like those two, that kind of repeats. They both got dark repeats that didn't get in the way of what you're actually playing and just have a good warmth to them. But also try and get in some of that tape warble modulation. So this had a fairly simple and classic and sounding good, but used over and over again. Rate and depth control for modulation of the repeats, so you get that kind of chorusy, vibrato on the, vibrato, but can be chorus. But I did have this feature that a friend of mine had it on a delay that he had, and I can't remember who made it, but it had this really cool feature where you press this momentary switch and it ramps the feedback up so it can self-oscillate and then you can let go of it and it'll go back down. And so that was always going to be a feature, and that was on this. That was the first one. Oh, and the red was from the DM2 actually. It's just up there, so it was meant to be. And the Copycat's got a red on it as well, so it didn't come out quite. I think it was trying to be a mixture between the red of this and the Copycat maybe, but I always had the red in that I liked it, but that's that. I mean, it's amazing. So this was very similar. This is when I started with the graphics as well, so I was trying to sort of tie it all in together. The thing this had is JFET switch, which meant it was really much quieter when you turn it on and off, and the modulation was a bit more random wave modulation, which gives you a bit more of a realistic tape kind of modulation, like the way it actually works. Essentially the same core of the circuit, the same, still trying to go off the same inspiration. Those two delays I just think are amazing. Yeah, this is the final prototype. It's just that the labels of some of the things are different because I changed what's going to happen with it really and how it's going to work. It really just builds on a lot of those things that I've mentioned about the tape aspect of things, and the sound, giving you control over all the different modulations that are happening. It's not just the wow, there's flutter, there's volume fluctuations depending on the quality of the tape heads, all sorts of different things. But then as it happened, by doing that, I realised I could also give it some other features. So the flutter, for example, can function as a tremolo with different waveforms. Much longer times. I've tried to incorporate some of the shorter times a bit cleaner as the way that people would use an analog delay. But then as the times get longer, you can introduce a bit more noise, like slowing the speed down of a tape. But then that noise can be brought in and out randomly with the flutter and failure of the tape for ambient sort of tape soundscape kind of things. Yeah, I'm chuffed to bits with it. So it covers a lot of ground. And the rise switch is quiet now, so that's I'm really happy with that. The expression pedal can control the time, or it can control the rate of the flutter as well, so that brings in some really interesting uses. I'm always keen, I might have mentioned it before, about pedals being that you can kind of play the pedal almost, like with the Tapescape, and using envelopes so you can, as you're playing your instrument, the pedal is responding in a different way every time, so you're not just putting something in and getting the same sound out. This isn't envelope based, but using the expression pedals are similar, that you can control the pedal in real time as you're playing and make it like an extension of your instrument really, which is really interesting, I think. Yeah, so dry is kill dry, so you can either have your dry signal in for your normal delay, or you can hear your dry signal and delay afterwards, or you can kill your dry so you can use that in a few different ways, but the main reason I put it in is so you could have the time and the feedback right down and use this as a pure tape simulator, really. So you can use all the wow and flutter controls and just put your signal through it, and you get all those lovely sounds, but without having to use it as a delay pedal. Or you can use it, just kill the dry and still have loads of feedback and a bit more time, and you just can't hear your dry guitar, so it's super wet, ambient stuff, you know. Really good, again, with all whatever controls you want. Type is the type of waveform that's being used for the flutter. So the top two are your random, and so that like the flutter, more traditional types. So either random like jerky or random smooth gives you that kind of failure aspect of a tape, or what I've tried to get. But the bottom one is traditional sine wave. So again, with it depends. Going off that one, the copycat, the flutter on that is regular, so it's going quite quickly. But so this will do that, but then you can also slow it down, and again you've got a regular tremolo there, so you can use the pedal as a tremolo if you want to. Again, with all the things down, and the tone is the tone of the repeats. In the middle, the brightest, and then you're cutting off some of the high end from that. Again, part of it is to emulate the age of a tape. As the tapes get older, they do get a bit crunchier and also lose the top end's the first thing that goes. Also, if you wanted, with the longer times and some of the bringing in some of that noise that comes in with that, you can tame some of that off if you want. Or if you just prefer it darker, because like the DM2 is pretty dark, and you can just get it nice and dark straight away, and then it's not in the way of what you're actually playing. If you're playing something quite complex but you want a bit of ambience with it, so just gives you a bit more flexibility. I was always really happy with the sound of the repeats on the older versions, but I just thought it's good to have a bit of
souped up in it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a nice thing to tweak, isn't it? The tone of the repeats, I think. But it didn't warrant a knob, so just think. You get a nice little switch, and then you're not taking up all that space, but you get a bit of control over. Yeah, this says tape emulator / delay, but it's going to change. So it's going to be magnetic ambience generator, which I think describes it a bit more vaguely, really, because it can do so much. I didn't want to just call it it is a tape emulator, it is a delay, but it can do a lot more to the general sound, you know, the ambience of your sound. So. But all based on the sound of a tape, really. Everything's coming back to that.
So there we go, the history of the Tapescape up to May 2023. If you're interested in the pedal and want to hear more, then click here. I'll leave a link to the Tapescape and Bleak District Electric down in the description. And please leave a comment. Let me know what you thought from what Phil was saying in the video today, and what else you'd like to hear from him in the future. Oh, and of course, if you took any value from today's video, I'd love to have you here on the channel every week. I release 2 new videos a week every Monday and Wednesday, and I'm active over on Instagram, although not many of you know that right now. I'd love to see you there too. Thanks for watching.